Okay, so I had to redo this live stream. So, don't know if anyone was watching the other link I had sent. Originally, I wanted this to start at 1 o'clock. As you can see, it's 1:08. I ran into some problems. And hopefully I have everything I need to start this live stream. Okay. Okay, I do have my air conditioner going on in the background. Hopefully that is not too much of a disturbance. And you may be wondering why this Raspberry Pi Pico is on a breadboard if we are soldering it. So we'll go over what we're going to be doing. And I lost the stand for this while I was trying to get everything else working. So, yeah, I don't know where I put that. So we're going to be putting everything onto a perf board. And here are the components. The 8-segment displays, the 74 HC595s, and a Raspberry Pi Pico, but I already have one here. And we're going to be basically creating the same module as I had before. I may be using different temperature probes, the same style of temperature probe, except for they won't be this style on the with the long probe. I may be using the individual DS 820s, 1820s. So this was some testing I had done with the modules earlier. These are the standard resistors I was using as current limiting resistors, but I was doing testing adding additional resistors so that I can go ahead and uh, change the current that is on the boards. So just bear with me a little bit. I'm a little caught back because of the errors or the problems I was having getting the stream up and running. I wanted this up and running a good 20 minutes ago. So the reason it's on this board is I have not yet had a chance to solder the pin headers onto this board. This is a new USB powered soldering iron I have. I'm going to be testing that. As many of you may have already seen, I have done this on a regular video, but I have not had a chance to do this one yet. So I have a sponge, the brass braid, and gonna go ahead and get this ready to solder. And this soldering iron is not as hot as I expected. It does have some problems, especially with it losing its connection. There's a slight wire connection here, and I don't know why that is. So I was going to make a quick, maybe short video on this, and I am going to use some flux. and get things up and running. This is being done with a direct webcam from YouTube Studio. I was trying to get it working with OBS, and for some reason that crashed. I do need a different system to work with OBS in the future, but did have this live stream scheduled, so I did want to go ahead and start it. Some of this I may end up editing out when I make a full video of this. So as you can tell, I am using the Raspberry Pi Pico and not the Pico W. I have not had an opportunity to experiment with that. Besides, I think all I did was put in the MicroPython software for that. So, and this soldering iron is not maintaining temperature. I am noticing that, which if I would have noticed that sooner, I would have gone to my other soldering station, but that is not accessible at this moment. So I did do some experiments with this soldering iron. It's not a high quality soldering iron, as you can tell. Got it off of AliExpress. And this really is not what I wanted to focus the this live stream on. Now, again, part of this may get edited out when I make this public. Right now, it does not appear that anyone is actually watching, so I am just going to take my time with this. As you can see here, I originally was going to try to make them the pins color coded, or at least the pin headers color coded. Because they were individual pins, that did not work out well. This is not a full-time job, so I do have limited time that I can devote to this. So past couple weeks have been busy, so I unfortunately has not been able to devote as much time as I wish I could have. Yeah, I am watching to see if anybody does show up, and then I might change what how I'm proceeding. But right now, no one's watching, so I can always go through and edit part of this out. Or I could just leave it and just, this could be a learning tool for other creators on what not to do. And that's one of those things that it's taken me a while to realize, is that sometimes you just need to fail. You can't be afraid to fail, and that's something I've been told a lot, especially with work, where you don't want to have you don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to overpromise, but you don't want to shy away from difficult tasks or tasks that you're not 100% on. That the only way to learn in anything is ultimately to try. There is a lot of other things that you can do prior where you can research how things work, but sometimes it's just a matter of just going ahead. And there's different creator channels. I think it's the channel Think Media that has the catchphrase, "You just have to hit record." And something that when I put my hand down on this prototype board, I noticed, and I had noticed it before, is as you can see, it's sticking to my hand. There's some type of film on this. So what my plan was, the first step in this video was to wipe down that board with isopropyl alcohol. Could have used denatured alcohol, but that tends to leave more of a film. So I have a bottle of isopropyl alcohol by my feet, and I'm also going to use that to wipe down the board, and also, since I did use flux on here, I do want to remove some of that excess flux. And I just realized that I brought paper towels to wipe down the board, and I did not bring Q-tips to try to get in between these little joints. Now, the solder I'm using is this .032 light duty rosin core solder. It is a 6040, and I believe it's silver and lead. Yeah, I can't tell. I believe it's silver and lead. It's not a lead-free solder. I should have more ventilation here. Somebody's going to probably say something. Well, if anyone actually ever views this. That's the other thing, is that if I just tell myself no one's watching this and I'm basically just talking to myself, I will probably end up doing better, and just do things just being relaxed. So it's been over like 13 minutes since I originally started this. Live streams tend to just be there. And the other thing is, with doing this, it is something that was done before, but does give an opportunity for people to actually see these videos. And I've been trying to look at the analytics to see where most of my viewers are from, but those do change often, and they do tend to take a while to show up. 1 o'clock on a Wednesday is probably not ideal. I did put a video out asking for times a week ago, and I didn't get any responses, so I just picked a time. So looking at this board, yeah, there's a lot of spots I need to go ahead and fix. And I'm going to just keep working on that. I'm just going to move the camera just a little bit because it is right above my head. Hopefully the audio is good. Okay, I'm probably going to stutter for a few minutes because I'm going to go listen to the audio. Okay, so that doesn't sound too bad. I do have the air conditioner going. If I need to, I'll turn it off. I do have my temperature probe plugged in, and it is 69 degrees in my office here. So, yeah, definitely comfortable enough to turn that off, but I am dealing with heat right now, so I'd rather not end up sweating on it. And you would say, well, 69 degrees, you shouldn't be sweating. But that's 69 degrees sort of in front of my air conditioner because I just put it down. I brought it from my living room, which is unair conditioned. And I use that just to play around with the what I have. And I'll bring that on camera in a little bit. Um, I had planned on. Did I? Okay. I thought I locked up for a minute. I had planned on using multiple cameras with OBS so I could show the temperature probe in like a sub window, but such is life. What I may try to do in the future, instead of, because I think part of the issue is that OBS, while it's streaming, does take a lot more resources, but it does have the ability to do a virtual camera. So I may do that and still use YouTube Studio's webcam feature, but use that as a virtual camera. I'm not sure if that will solve any of the problems, but I will leave the my attempt at using OBS up because you could see what was happening. I was not getting, well, I was getting audio, but all the audio was muffled, or at least as I listened to it on the live stream. I haven't tried to watch it in since I tried to live stream it that way because I was trying to get this video up and running, which has been up for just over 19 minutes. And so, like I said, it started about 7 or 8 minutes late. I don't think anyone was watching, so it wasn't a critical thing, but I did put a time out. So I did want to try to be punctual. And as you can see with the name of this channel, it's called Samples and Tests. I originally did not intend for this to be a full channel. This was originally going to be me just testing out some things before making a channel. As you can see, most of it was using testing video capture for some Nintendo games. But I decided to just go with it, and that would be the theme. That's before I even decided to go and start this um, uh, Raspberry Pi Pico project. Um, like you may have seen, I did a coffee video, some other videos. I do have an extract video that I hope to have completed at some point. And more, possibly more coffee, more. I would need a better setup to do any type of cooking, even though I am far from a good cook. Just some basic stuff. And that's some of the stuff is like making something simple in a pressure cooker, making with making something like rice and beans, where literally I take some dried beans, hydrate them, and throw them into a pressure cooker for a few minutes, probably like a half hour usually, depending on how hydrated they are. And from there, I will then add the rice and any type of flavoring, some cumin, some other. Okay, that's going to be my soldering iron holder. Okay, so looks like that pin there needs some more, maybe a couple over there. Doesn't look like I have any solder bridges going on. Okay, so this is 23 minutes of me doing something I've done on video before, but now doing it live. So it's something new. Something new, but... And like I said, as you can see, this light on here, as I put pressure. So, like I said, it's a cheap, let me make sure that the tip needed to be tightened just a little bit. It's a cheap soldering iron I got from AliExpress. Again, wanting to test out new things. And the I used to have a small butane. Well, I still have it. Butane soldering iron, which was good for doing work on, say, my car, where the you didn't have power. But this one I have running off of a, let's see how much, what's the rating on this? Well, it's a 2.4 amp, which can't really show right now, a 2.4 amp USB power brick, which 2.4 amp with 5 volts would be about 7.5 watts. So yeah, not bad for 7.5 watts. And I just created a solder bridge. I am going to be deliberately making solder bridges later on. At least that's part of my plan. For the perf board, going from two adjacent points, instead of trying to get a small wire together, I'll just do a solder bridge possibly. But that is assuming that whatever I do actually works. Now, I don't want to have to go through and resolder any of this later on. So I do want to check. Yeah, there's a couple points here. My piece of solder is actually getting pretty small. This is the leftover solder I had from when I did the first pin header from this coil, because trying to do work while holding a coil is not, well, it is feasible, but not practical. So what I did was I just ripped off a large part, which you'll see me do again, because that's not enough solder to finish this project. Well, it's enough to finish the soldering the points on here, but it's not enough to do the perf board. Okay. Again, leave this. And again, because this is a 7.5 watt soldering iron, it does tend to cool down fairly quickly. Now, let's see if this heats up. If not, I may try to save some time while trying to heat it up and get it to go ahead and start on the second item, which was going to be my first item for this live stream. And yeah, double check to make sure that this is, it seems to be screwed on tight enough, but not nearly hot enough. I don't know why. It works fine at some points, and then it just stops working. If anybody knows why, just go ahead and leave it. Well, no one's watching right now, so go ahead and leave it in comments. If you are watching this after the fact, go ahead and put down what a good time for a future video would be. Because, yeah, since I didn't have a response, I did have to schedule some other things, so I just basically just picked the time that was ideal for me, which I wouldn't have done if I had some input, but I did ask for it in a shorts video, and most people don't comment on shorts video or are even logged in, and that is a solder bridge. Oops. Ooh. Move the camera a little bit. Yeah, so I did create a. Now I'm create a bigger solder bridge. And that's why I have desoldering wick. So, get some of this extra wick up, some of this extra solder. And looking at this may actually work for those solder bridges I was telling you about that I may deliberately do. If I can solder these two, a piece of, let me flip over this board. Oh no, that is the, okay, that is the copper side up. If I could solder a piece of this between those 2 points, that might work out, but hopefully we find out in a few minutes. Okay. Okay, it looks like that was corrected. That pin there, which may actually be a needed pin because I believe that's one of the power pins. What's that? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 5th pin down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is power in. That one looks okay. Oh no, that's 3.3 out. VSys and VBus look okay. That is a ground pin, and that is the same ground pin that I had a problem with last time. Oddly enough. So that is the 3rd pin. And let me put this in my right hand so I don't. Okay. That looks good for now, I think. So to recap which pins I would be using, and I'll use which I think it's VBus will be the input. The multiple grounds. V out would go on to, if I was using a breadboard, go on to the bus, but that's going to be the voltage for everything else. I'm not going to be using any of the ADCs for this. Again, more grounds. So the pins that I will be using is GP16, which will go to the temperature probe, and then GP 15, 14, 13, 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9 is also, and then possibly GP0 if I decide to do a breakout function. And that should be fine. So this, I think all those pins should be good. I don't see any solder bridges. So I am going to leave the soldering iron plugged in because I'm going to need it for the next phase. But going to take a rag and put the board on the side. And looking back, I probably should have grabbed my chip puller, which I don't have with me here. And so this is 70% isopropyl alcohol. Just new bottle, just opened it up. Put the cap on so I don't spill it everywhere. And just I'm going to go ahead and wipe down the board. There's some type of resin here that I am pulling up, or it could just be like a copper oxide, because I do see some oxidation. I've had these boards for a while. Still am detecting something tacky on it. And yes, I'm aware that I'm using a flammable alcohol near a soldering iron. And I will need to make sure that this is dry prior to doing any soldering on it. But it is an electric soldering iron, so no open flame. If I was using my propane one, that would more likely cause an issue. I don't know what this film is. It may be that these boards are pre-fluxed, which I did get it from Micro Center, and a lot of their packaging isn't for simple stuff like this, isn't too detailed. Just copper plated, 70 millimeters by 90 millimeters. They were $5, so $1 per board. Yeah, could cause cancer in California. Hole diameter, hole spacing, standard. Yeah, nothing about if it's coated or not. So I just flooded the board with alcohol. And I am going to continue to scrub this board. And I did not bring a second rag to dry it off. And I do not know where my microfiber is. Should be on my shelf here somewhere. But in the meantime, I'm just going to put the board aside. I use this to soak up as much alcohol as I can. And I will let that dry. And like I said, I did have a microfiber cloth around here, but I do have a lot of stuff on my shelf, so it's probably buried under something. Yeah, I'd show my shelves, but the camera's not really set up for that, and I do have some personal papers with personal information on it that I'd have to get out of the way and remove my blood donor card and some other items. But yeah, so some of the items that you may have seen is this the Raspberry Pi Pico W. Like I said, I have not had a chance to work on that board. I did get this tiny 2040 also. Basically because I don't need many pins to do what I need to do. I think I can do it with the 7 pins there, which yeah, so I'd have to check the Pi Morani website to see what exactly would be needed. And yeah, I'm just stalling for time right now. Could go through some of the other things I've recently purchased. As you can see here, I have these different colored pin headers. Like I said, I was trying to get it so it would be color coded. I have quite a few of them now. Yeah, I have a lot more than I thought I did. So I will be soldering a lot more pin headers probably in the future. I do have a couple more Raspberry Pi Pico boards and some other boards, some boards for, which ones do I have? I have some Arduino boards. I do want to get an ESP32 board. What do I have here? This is a voltage regulator or of some sort. I can't remember which one that I will be playing with. Did get some drill bits to do some work on doing copper plated boards. This is I believe this is another DC to DC power converter. Let's see what else. And this is the temperature probes that I will probably be using in this with the perf board, because why not? Other videos that I am working on will be dealing with how to read scale rulers, both architect and engineer scale. Those are in the works. And I just have numerous other miscellaneous pieces of electronic equipment that I can use. I may be using a 4 wire or 4 battery pack for this perf board, which does seem to be a lot better now that I let it dry. So let's go ahead and take the components and start doing a basic basic layout. So I'm going to use these sockets instead of directly using the 74LS595s, just so if I have a bad chip, I can go ahead and pull it out. Okay. And I was going to take the Raspberry Pi Pico and put it with standoffs in order to pull it off the board and use it in the future. But I do have quite a few other other Raspberry Pis. That was also if I was going to use the Pico W, which I think once I get this done, I will be able to just make a Pico W board independent of this one. So I'm not overly concerned. Just trying. I don't have my chip puller here or a good screwdriver or something to pull out this off the breadboard. So hopefully I pulled it off without any problems. So I do not need this breadboard right now. Okay. So since items are going to be soldered from the back, I'm going to go ahead and set this up here. And then like the other boards that I've done, I am going to use 4 of these 8-segment displays. And I know almost everyone calls them 7 segments, but that period does make an 8 segment. And I think part of it is my brain sees the number 8 and wants to say 8. And the other part of my brain says, well, if there are 8 actual points, if you say 7, you're going to forget about one of the points or one of the connections, and that will not work. So another thing that I did do is I wanted to include the give me a second, the diagram while working on this. I did create a diagram on and put it onto the GitHub, and I just realized that my GitHub and my blog are the same. I have to correct my website. I just went on to my website to try to get GitHub and realized that I do not have any my links are incorrect. So let me see if I can put this link here. This should be the direct link to the schematic, which I will post that to the chat if anyone wants to see the schematic, which I will also be opening. And I will be opening that into Acrobat. And I would have liked to have been able to show that, but unfortunately I didn't print it out, so that is not going to happen. So next, I'm going to go ahead and set these up. I had test fit all this prior, but yeah. Okay, this little pin is pulled out, and so is that pin. Yeah, I wasn't as gentle as I should have been when pulling these off the where they were mounted on that piece of styrofoam. Something up with these. Let's get pulled out a little bit. So, okay. Now, one of my original plans was to mount the last digit upside down like that. So then I can use the dot as a degree symbol, but I may do that on a future project, but as of right now, that seems cumbersome. Okay. Now, the first thing that I want to do is to put in the okay. So let me finish test fitting this because I believe so I'm going to have the notch where pin 1 goes all the way to the end, and I'm going to start test fitting these because I believe I'm going to have to do at least one of them sideways or vertical instead of horizontal. Yeah, so this one wouldn't fit here, so I am going to go ahead and mount it like so. And then from here, I can figure out where I can start putting more passive components. So I have these 4 LEDs, 4 resistors for the LEDs, and those, I guess it doesn't matter which way I mount these. So I'm just going to pull each of those through, pull the leads back. And I'm leaving everything on this board for right now, just so I can get the spacing correct. And so I just realized that each of these boards, the lines on them line up with the the LEDs pretty nicely that they are five holes separating each. So this will actually work out pretty well for what I am trying to do. And some may say, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to get one resistor for each of these spaces. Now, once I get the resistor in, I can't really show you this because everything will fall off, is I'm bending the leads back to hold them in place, because once I get these, and I am trying to keep them aligned the same orientation, even though resistors are not polarized, or at least I've never come across a resistor that's polarized. There probably are some that are polarized, similar to the way certain capacitors are polarized. And there's probably a electrical reason why a capacitor would be polarized. I'm just not aware of it. Okay. And yeah, I apologize if I'm not showing this too well on camera. I am looking at the board and not at my monitor, so I am missing some of the things that I should be looking at. Okay, so I got those four in, and I'm going to add both of these. I will probably have to play with them. I honestly forget how the values on these, and I don't have the memory to say what the values are. I believe they're the same. Yeah, they are the same value. I want to say that these are 600, about that. So what I want to do is add an additional kilo ohm to what is already on these individual resistors. And the reason for that, and let me bend these leads back also so they stay put. And all lined up correctly. And this one I had already trimmed down, so it does not want to play nice. This was from a different project that I had pulled it off. And this is one of the reasons I don't trim down resistors until I'm ready to use them permanently, because they just don't play nice. And this is getting close to an hour of this, and I have not even started soldering any of these components on. Okay, so now the other item, so those are, whoops. Okay. The other item I would want to add, but I will add after, is this potentiometer. Not sure where I would add it, but I could always add it later. There is room. But in the meantime, I'm going to pull out the components, and I am going to work from small to large, or from low to high. So the first components that I'm going to solder on will be, and I'm going to try to do this without damaging too many of the leads, will be the resistors. So Why am I doing this as a live stream? That is a very good question. I wish I had a good answer. So that is not enough solder, so that's going to go away. That's enough solder to begin working. And there is my flux pen. So this has the copper side up, which will be the connection points. Okay, this is coming out. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move the camera up a little bit, move the board up a little bit, and okay, this seems to be working relatively well. Until the soldering iron decides to cool down. Now, the question is going to be, how much of the leads am I going to leave on? And part of my reasoning for leaving larger leads will be to merge them together. But the other reason to leave larger leads would be that I am going to have to resolder each of these points. And the reason I'm going to have to do that is I'm going to have to wire in additional wires. And this is going to be a little tricky. I could just move that wire out of the way, but I'm going to try to do the lazy way. And because this is not a pre-made PCB where the leads are already in the circuitry. I'm going to have to create new leads, or I have to create leads based on the circuit diagram that I included in the chat. So from there, I'm going to have to figure out what exactly to do. Because I do want you to be able to follow the circuit diagram, but I do also want to show it. And without like trying to show a video or the screen, it's going to be somewhat difficult. And I have made modifications to that diagram since. So, okay, these all seem to be relatively sturdy. And in touching the board just now, I did realize that the stickiness was flux on the board. So I'm going to go ahead and trim these. And as I said, I'm not going to trim them too. I can always trim them down later, I think. I'm going to try to trim them down as much as I can. The longer wires I may save as wires that I can use to do maybe shorter jumps, like between two adjacent points. And something I realized I haven't talked about is the type of wire I will be using. I will be using 24 gauge wire. And the reason that I am using 24 gauge wire is that I will actually be using Cat 5 or Cat 6. I can't remember which spool I pulled it off of. Let's see, does it say? But it is 24 gauge. I do recall that. Okay. Marking Cat 5e, made in the USA. Okay. And it is 24 gauge. This is unshielded twisted pair, which is fine for what I am doing here because the shielding would just cause more issues. I'm hoping that the lighting is good for you. I am having some shadowing. It is an overcast day, and I do generally use window light as one of my lightings. Not very professional, but why waste money using lights that I don't need to? But I do need to purchase some more lights, maybe a halo light of some sort, or some type of spotlight. I'm waving my hand above the camera like you can see it. Because right now most of this light I have in the room is from a USB bulb in a regular 7050 socket. I think it's the 7050 socket. A standard light bulb socket. And I believe an incandescent light bulb. Not an incandescent. A compact fluorescent. And those lights are generally efficient enough. If I am sitting at my desk reading something, it's not that great for reading at night. So I usually around this time, usually 1-2 o'clock. I'll eat something and then maybe read for a half hour, an hour. If I'm in my home office. If I'm not, then whenever. I do have times when I am waiting at other offices for meetings, on the railroad, other times to read. Just something to pass the time. Okay, so the resistors are in, relatively trimmed up. Now, what will be simpler? What has a smaller profile? I am actually going to wait on the Pico because, to be completely honest, I have not made the decision yet if I am going to use those standoffs. I think the standoffs will be problematic. So, okay, so those go there. Okay, I'm just using this to reorient myself to how I was planning on doing this. So I'm going to line this up with the first, with the edge of the board and to the bottom there. And that should give me enough room if I haven't screwed this. Yep, and I have enough room for the Pico above it. Okay. Ooh, I could barely see where the connections are. That's not ideal. Let's see if I add. That's a little too bright. Hitting some light from the side. Yes, I am going to use my cell phone as a secondary lighting source. And nope. Yeah, it's not doing any good. Okay. Well, once I get the first pin in, that should make things a lot simpler. And I'm actually going to use another one just on this side here, just so the board lays flat. And that's why you would want to use progressively taller components, is that it's easier for you to have the boards lay flat. So I am going to do the bottom pin here, which board's still not laying perfectly flat, and then the top pin there. Okay. And with that, I can place the next socket. And since I am going to need to, actually, let me just, 3 sockets deep, using a space. And then do I still have room for the 4th socket? Barely. Okay. Or I can put the socket up more. Okay, I am going to leave a space between the sockets, and part of my rationale with that is that I want to be able to use a chip remover in the future. So that will allow me to have space to use said chip remover. And did these jump? Yes, these did jump when I just shifted. Yep. Hmm. Okay. I need to put something under it while I flip it. But I don't want anything that has. I need something with some rigidity, but nothing that actually has my name on it. Which most of the stuff that has rigidity has my name on it. And I've thrown out almost all my cardboard already because I do that every couple weeks, and I do not have anything readily. Okay, I guess this will work. For my cardboard bin, and go ahead and flip that and move it onto screen. So I put a piece of cardboard underneath here so that I can continue soldering without much difficulty. Because these, unlike the resistors, these, okay, move the camera a little bit. These don't really have pins that can be easily bent back. So, and I think I made a mistake. Let me go ahead and flip this back over. Okay, this is not working out the way I wanted. Anyone who's followed this channel will realize that that's a running theme. And not so much of my incompetence, but more of my inability to do things on camera. And yep, I soldered the wrong pin there. That is not the correct pin to solder. And that was what's throwing me off, is that I literally soldered an open joint. That right there is not a pin. There is the pin. So that's part of what was throwing me off, was that I am trying to line things up with a pin that doesn't. And of course, the soldering iron cooled down again. So that may not cause any further problems. May not cause any electrical problems. So I may just leave that pin as is, or that hole, which doesn't have a pin, as is, and just go ahead and, or that could cause an electrical problem. Okay. Okay, those are separated for now. So now that I corrected that first one, I can go ahead and solder the next socket. And that's what I want to do, is I want to solder two diagonal pins. So like pin 1 and pin, like, I think these are 16 pins, so it's like pin 8 or 9. So solder those diagonal pins so I can get an electrical, a mechanical connection that I'm going to have to fix in a moment. And that will hold the board in place. Now this will cause a electrical problem because those are two pins of the same board. Now, another reason I wanted to do this in a live stream is that live streams are not meant to be edited. Well, they are after the fact, but they're if they're not, it's relatively forgiven that you have your your ahs, your what the just happened, and go with the flow. It's not like live TV where you're expected to have corrections. And part of this is that these boards are actually absorbing a lot more solder than I expected. So, like, that was a pretty big piece of solder I pulled out originally, and I haven't done too many points. So, the fact that this board is ultra light, well, not ultra light, but fairly light, isn't helping either. Okay. So that's two boards, two sockets mechanically connected. Let me go with the third. And using my trusty piece of cardboard, which, if anyone is actually looking at it, is cardboard from my underwear. Yeah, what everybody wants to have on a YouTube live stream is the cardboard from their boxers. It just happened to be the only thing left in my my scrap bag of cardboard that I haven't recycled yet. Okay, that one seemed to be go on a lot better. So now the decision on the fourth one. And that one is going to partially be determined by where the Pico is placed. So the Pico is going to go there. So Okay, I'm gonna have. Wow, these are crooked. Oh well. They're in there, but they're not quite straight, but whatever. Okay, so this one, I think that's where I'm going to place that. So this will be the chip for that LED. This will be the chip for that LED, and this will be the chip for that LED, and this will be the chip for that LED. Okay. I am probably going to jinx myself now and say that this is actually working pretty well for a live stream. The last 2 times I tried this, it locked up. And why it locked up, I do not know. Maybe when we get further in, I will endeavor to see if I can recreate what caused it to lock up. Okay. Okay, that's the pin there, and that's the other pin there. Okay, so now all 4 chips are mechanically connected to the board. So I could go ahead and start working on, yeah, you can see here I am going to need to get a Q-tip before I energize this board and clean up a lot of this excess flux. So I don't need the cardboard for right now, and hopefully I won't need it again at all. So I could go ahead and start soldering in other components and then go back to this, but let's just continue with this board. I think part of the problem I'm having right now is that I did not flux these. Gonna have to clean up the board anyway, so I might as well add some more flux to these points. And this is something that I only really recently started doing, and you can do it without in most cases, or apparently you can, because I had been doing it in most cases without a problem, but it does help draw in the solder, which is what I think it's meant to do. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go through and clean up all these. I'm just going to yeah, that's the other thing with this. I don't really, with my other soldering station, I am able to control. I just soldered the wrong line of all this right here is the resistors. This was the line that I wanted to solder. So I'm going to finish up this little piece of solder I have here, and then I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to correct that. This would have been so much simpler if I didn't want to do it on camera. And the benefits of doing it on camera are still somewhat lost at this point because no one's actually watching. The benefit is just getting me used to doing live streams. Okay. Okay, so that's creating solder bridges there. So I will have to I don't know how long I've had this desoldering wick. I have probably like 6 rolls of it. I don't know if I got it before Radio Shack had closed down, or bought it on eBay, but I bought a bunch of it. And until recently, I've only used them a handful of times. Okay. So it doesn't look like I can get all the solder out. So what I'm relegated to do is just make sure I don't have solder bridges. Ooh, that was warm. So this copper, as you would imagine, absorbs heat and conducts heat. And even though I'm about 1.5 inches up holding it, the heat still transfers, which I guess is a good thing. Okay. So that's a lead. That's a lead. That's a lead. And actually, that's a lead. That does not have solder in it. I have soldered several places today. Now, as you can imagine, part of the reason is that one, the lighting isn't great. Two, is that there's so many holes that soldering the correct hole is problematic, at least for me. Don't know why. Some of these holes are just absorbing solder, which or it could be that is rosin core. Yeah, it's rosin core, right? So it could be the rosin just evaporating, and I'm not actually using as much solder as I think I'm using. And besides the pin headers on the Pico itself, which is a Raspberry Pi Pico and not a tiny Pico, which is a RS232 board, which I hope to play with or work with in the future. And the Raspberry Pi Pico uses a Rp2040. The data sheet and such are in the description. And that was not a pin. Okay. So it's been a little over an hour and a half working on this board. Um, Unofficially, I set a time of 2 hours to do this. So at the 2 hour mark, I'm going to see where we are standing. If I'm still soldering components on the board, I may just finish the components at that point and schedule a live stream for next week. To do the rest. Or I may just do this and do it as a separate video. And that's going to have to be fixed. That's a big blob on something that is not a pin. And that just sort of made it worse, but not quite. Okay, I'm going to have to trim that down in a little bit, do more soldering. That's a solder bridge. Yeah, some of these solder bridges and such I may have to fix off camera because my head is only about that far from the camera. So I am sort of looking at a bad angle. So I may have to correct some of this stuff off camera. Wish I had a better camera setup, which I probably could do. So that's my own fault. And I think this is getting loose again. Possibly. Okay. So now the other thing that would help me determine if I'm going to continue this as a live stream is if anyone shows up. And part of the other thing is that even the live streams I've done before, I've only gotten maybe a handful of people to view them after the fact, which is going to be really funny if this channel ever does take off and people start viewing these after the fact and basically listen to me talk to himself. And my horrible ability to solder. Doesn't help that this soldering iron keeps losing its heat. It'll work great for a while, and then I really do think that it has a broken wire somewhere. So right now I am putting this directly on the soldering iron to try to retin this end, and nothing. Nothing. Okay. If you could, let me get this on camera. That would be the ideal place. Okay. If you look at the light, let's see if it'll show up on there. See how when I press down, the light gets dimmer? And I think that's because now it's making connection with the tip. So now it's the same reason why if you put a bigger resistor as a current limiting resistor, an LED would get dimmer, because it's now going through that resistor. And so that seems to be part of the issue, is that this is not making a good connection. So I do have to keep pressure on it to have it heat up enough. So in the future, I think I am still going to use this soldering iron. Well, if I ever get monetized, maybe I'll have enough money to buy a better cordless soldering iron. I would like to get another butane one, just because I do have to do work on the lights in my car, which that's another one, trying to figure out how to record that, because if I'm going to do something like that, I might as well record it. So initially, what I am going to do with the lights in my car is I need to replace the headlight socket, because one of them is burnt out. So I am probably just going to use wire nuts, and I do have some wire nuts that are meant for wet locations. And when I take a break from soldering, which will probably be in a minute or so. Okay. Which will probably be right now. Now hold on, let me see if I can grab these wire nuts I have. Okay. So yeah, these are the wire nuts I have. They are weatherproof. They are well, that's right on the edge. Yeah, UL listed. And these were actually for a something that I was doing that did need UL parts that would be outdoors. So these were a rated part. And unlike regular wire nuts, which I don't have in front of me, these do have this little bit of a grommet, and that allows it to withstand some of the moisture. I would still probably cover these in electrical tape once I'm done. And that will be, yeah, that's not good. So what I would like to do is to do that, connect the new socket in, make sure it's working, and then go back and solder the connections. And okay, I'm having second and third thoughts on this soldering iron. So I just want to get through soldering this board. Yeah, so there's definitely a connection issue with this board. Um, I am thinking of getting one of the like the USB digital ammeters, watt meters, voltmeters. USB should be 5 volts regardless. But and testing out some components and see how much current they're actually drawing, and in turn how much power they're consuming. Because I would like to see, like, okay, when I'm not pressing down on the soldering iron, it's drawing, say, uh, 2 watts, whereas when I'm pressing down, it's drawing 7. Now, oh, that's about another bubble. A solder bubble I have to deal with later. And I am running out of things to say. In most of my videos, I usually just babble, and I've sort of been doing that most of this video too. But I don't know really what to babble about, and okay. That is a giant blob of mess. Yeah, that's just, yeah. Okay, so I don't even think I'm going to get all the components in my time frame. Once I get these sockets soldered on, I think that's where I'm going to call this video. Um, because I need to run an extension cord to run my other soldering station because I don't want to plug it into the ups that I have, or the uninterrupted power supply that I have for my computers over here. No, yeah, I guess it's multiple computers because I do have my main computer, which I'm recording this and broadcasting this from, and I have a Raspberry Pi setup, which is what I use when I'm for my other videos for the programming portion, because that's what I set up with. It was the easiest thing. I used the computer I have here, and I just use an SSH shell or an SSH session to go ahead and remote into the Raspberry Pi Pico or Raspberry Pi to access the Raspberry Pi Pico to either use the Ripple with MicroPython, or on the Raspberry Pi I have the C and C++ software development kit that I use to program in C and C++. And I was hoping to have this board ready to do the next part with the C and C++. But yeah, this really isn't working. Yeah, this isn't really hot. I can easily touch it. Not enough to... I'll turn it off. Turn it back on and see. Okay. Okay. Again, only 2 people watching right now. No one's leaving any comments in the chat, so the likelihood is people aren't actually logged in. So I'd have to look through the analytics to see. How people are logged in, if they're logged in with a remote device, if they're logged in with a what else would they be logged in with? Not a remote device, a mobile device, a computer, a TV, which with some devices you can't even see the chat, which would be problematic. The especially since I put the GitHub link for the schematic I'm using. In the chat, it's available on the description, I believe. Oh, and let me check that. Okay, yeah, no, that's the Raspberry Pi pinout. That's the data sheet for the Raspberry Pi Pico, data sheet for the Rp2040. So the GitHub is listed, and it is listed in the GitHub. But let me see if I can. Let's see, can I edit? Yes, I can edit the description. Outstanding. So this is, what is this? This is the as I'm typing with one hand. Okay, close enough. Well, I spelt it correctly, I believe. It's just haven't capitalized it or anything like that. And okay, anything else? Anything else? Anything else? And that should be good. And save. Okay. So this is a giant mess. And like I said, this is not working well. So let me go grab some other things, and this will just have to wait till a later time. So it's probably not gonna make a decision for a couple of days on what I am going to do. I may do another live stream, but that just scheduling that just seems fruitless at this point without anyone watching. So if anyone watches and is watching this after the fact, or is watching now and will comment later, just leave a comment if you want me to do a live stream. Otherwise, I think my plan will be to do this as a regular distributed video. And then I'll just have a more edited, more viewable video. And I keep hitting into the camera. Now I'm really off. What did I do? Okay, well, anyway, here is the do not want to get that into, is the original board that I did. Like I said, this is very precarious. That's why I put it on top of a lid from Home Depot. So with this one, I do still have the standard temperature probe. I may experiment and use the one of those other probes, and I'll probably make a video if I do that. I do have the USB cable still connected. But, and let me just move this over. It's just an open USB. I use that in case I need to reprogram. And, oh, no, it didn't lock up. Okay, I thought I locked it up. Which is how I locked it up last time, is that I had something, my hand in front of the camera for too quickly and too much movement, and I think it just locks it up. So that would be one thing I would do, is to connect the smaller temperature probe, and that would alleviate like most of these jumper wires here. Let me just move this. Most of these jumper wires are so I can hook up to the probe. Now, benefits of having this long probe is I can do other things. I do want to test it and seeing if I can put it in a toaster oven to make a reflow oven, but that may be something else. I do have the rechargeable batteries. They're 1.2 volt. So that's 3.6 volt. I may use the 4 battery pack, so that would give me 4.8. And I think part of the reason that I'm having it die out is that it drops below too quickly. But I still need to play around with the voltage regulator. And also adding more resistance here to the these. One, which would make them dimmer. Two, it would actually alleviate the overall current flow, at least from my earlier tests. I'm going to put that aside and hopefully not damage anything. So that is where we stand right now. I was really hoping to get more done in this video. It's been over 2 hours. And let me just go through some things that I've experimented and done with since last videos. I do have a video coming up where I start to do the recoding of it with C++, which I think I did mention. I did want to use this board as the ultimate board to test it on, but we'll see how that goes. Another thing is that I had this that board that I was just showing you on the Home Depot lid set up, and I just let it go for a few weeks. After a couple of days, the battery died. I didn't even really notice it because I was busy with other things. But when I did recharge the batteries, at first it wouldn't work. The display came up, but it just displayed garbage. So I went through, I checked the connection, because that's a lot of times when the MicroPython code fails, that happens. So I thought maybe I have to reflash the memory. Maybe the MicroPython code got wiped out or something to that effect. So with that USB cable, which is similar to like this one, I plugged it into one of my other battery packs, which this one is charged. And it turned on and worked correctly. I'm like, okay, maybe there's a problem with the wiring. Again, it's on a breadboard. a good bump, a good nudge, something falling on it could change it. So I hooked up the battery again, just out of curiosity. And it started working. And as you can see, it's still working. So I don't know what caused that. I don't know if it needed the USB to reinitialize something. And besides letting it sit for 3 weeks again, which I may do, I don't know how to recreate that. And then even if I do recreate it, I don't know how to test to see what is happening. Other things with power management is, like I said, I do want to add a voltage regulator. And I don't know if I would need to, but I am thinking that I may need to add some just filtering capacitors to the power. But surprisingly, the board is actually working a lot better than I thought. I may do something where if I have a good step down converter where I can get it down to 3 or 4 volts from 9 volts, I may try seeing how long a 9-volt battery works. But I don't want to put 9 volts directly into the board since it's only rated for 5. And then some other tests. I do have a bunch of things I've ordered online to test. And some of it I will be testing off camera just because it's a lot easier to test things off camera. But because of the nature of the way I structured this channel, I would like to have it be on camera so you can see the mistakes I make. And some of them, like trying to solder with a $5 wireless, not wireless, USB soldering iron. Actually, let me double check how much I paid for this. $5.96. Okay. Let me double check that. Okay, why does this... Oh, yeah, and $4.47 shipping and 94 cents tax. Yeah, so an $11 USB soldering iron. Yeah, that wasn't a great investment. So I do have a Raspberry Pi Rp2040, which is similar to, actually maybe even the same board that I showed you earlier. It's a smaller, compact version of the Raspberry Pi Pico. I have 18650 3.7 volt batteries. That those I need to figure out, because what I'd like to do is to take a battery pack such as this and wire the batteries in parallel instead of series. The batteries I have, again, I'm getting these from AliExpress, so who knows what they really are 9.9 amp hour batteries, or 9,900 milliamp hour batteries. Same number, different way of saying it. So then I would have almost a 40 amp hour battery pack, which it looks like I locked. And this is how I locked up last time. So for some reason, my hand in front of the camera locks up the camera. Don't know why. I really don't know why. My hand locks up the camera. I don't know if it's a focus thing or something to that effect, but my hand locks up the camera. And that's how this is going to end. So that's 3 live streams in a row that literally end with my hand in front of the camera. But let me just do the math for that. So I was getting what? 60 milliamps was what the last time I checked the power rating on this. So that's 0.06 amps. Yeah. So 40 divided 0.06 would give me 666 hours divided by 24, which would be 27 days. So even without additional power management, I could get another 30 days out of that battery pack. Now, did I lose my audio too? Hold on, let me check that. Because if I lost my audio too, there's no sense in me talking. No, the audio's still working. Okay, so yeah. Actually, I think it's the actual YouTube Studio that has locked up because it's not showing my audio changing. Let me see. Let me mute it, I think. Let me do another test. This is unmuted. Okay, mute still works. Okay, so now, yeah, I really wish I knew how to unblock this or reinitialize the camera, but I don't see a way to do that. So I'm going to just go ahead and end it here. Oh, did it just unfreeze? Yep, it just unfroze. I don't know why. I really don't. Okay, so enough of me rambling. I'm going to take a break, go get something to eat. Maybe come back and see if I can get this soldered, and then maybe do that as a separate video. I may get all the components soldered in and then do another live stream and do the live stream of actually wire wrapping and actually doing the connections. But let's see. Let me go ahead and this should be the video of when I did the circuit diagram, so you can take a look at that video if you're watching the chat. Probably going to add in some end cards with some other videos and the playlist for this project. Actually, it's all the Raspberry Pi Pico playlist, not specifically for this project. So, not how I wanted this live stream to go, but not as bad as I thought it might go. If anybody has any comments, just leave them in the comments, because they won't be able to leave anything in the chat after I end this. So I'm thinking of getting a laptop computer just for doing live streams and recording, and I may use that for doing some cooking videos and other, like even my coffee videos shouldn't be done on my desk, but they are what they are. Yeah, and comments, go ahead and leave them. If you want to see what is going on in the future, go ahead and subscribe. And like or dislike this video however you feel fit. And I am going to go ahead and end this stream, and thank you and have a great day.